Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Monday morning high five. Myself, my brother Richard. Thanks for joining us. We are continuing in the book of Judges, chapter 8. We're going to look at verses 10 through 17 this morning. So the story continues. Gideon and his 300 men are chasing the remaining members of the armies of the east. All this great number, confederation of armies uh, composed of the Midianites and also some other armies from the east. Um, and verse 10 it tells us that their army was in a place called Karkar. They're there. They think that they're safe. Um, they have 15,000 men, and they're there. But Gideon and his men, they go and they are still able to attack the army. Um, and so the kings just keep running. these kings of the Midians, like they've run all this way from the original site of the battle, and they just keep running. Like their life is worth more than than pride or whatever. They're just like, look, let's get out of here. So they start running and when they run, it throws their army into a panic. Um, and Gideon is able to capture them, the kings, and they they head back to basically they're heading back across the Jordan back to Gideon's territory, like where the battle started. Um, but he made some threats, promises. I don't know how you look at
Declarations.
it. What?
Declarations.
Some declarations. Yeah, he did make some declarations to some people on his way to get the two kings, Zeba and Zalmunna. And so now he's coming back the same way that he went up, and he revisits the town of Succoth, and he also goes back to the town of Penuel, and he let them know, they refused to help him when he was going to get the kings. And now that he has the kings, now it's like, remember I told you, if you don't help me, God is still going to give me victory, but I'm going to bring some consequences and repercussions when I come back. And so he keeps his word, and he uses thistles and briars to punish the people in Succoth. He breaks down the tower in Penuel, and he kills all the men of the city in Penuel as well. So, yeah, consequences and repercussions. I'll go first, Rich.
Okay.
Only because the part I was going to talk about happens early on. I was looking at verse number 11. It says, Gideon went up by the way of the tent dwellers east of Nobah and Jogbehah and attacked the army, for the army felt secure. And I think it was that phrase right there that really just caught my attention. The army felt secure. And from the outside looking in, it does make sense why they would feel secure. They outnumber Gideon and his men 5-1. For every one man Gideon has, they have 5. And they feel like, okay, we're back kind of in our territory. Like when we were across the Jordan, we had numbers, but we were on his turf. Now we're kind of back on our turf a little bit. We can relax. And that was a bad assessment. Gideon and his 300 men are still able to attack them and be successful. And it's not Gideon, it's not his strategies, it's not his techniques. It is God is with Gideon. That's the secret ingredient. And as I was looking at that, I was just looking at how whenever God is not with us, and it's amazing. Sometimes we think we are secure. Like God's not with us. God's not on our side. God is not a part of our plan. We may have numbers. We may think, okay, this location is safe, or this plan. I was nervous about it at first, but it seems like it's working. It seems like it's working out. Like I think it's gonna be okay until it just isn't. It quickly becomes not okay. It quickly turns out we were foolish to feel secure without God. And so, yeah, it's just sorry.
You all right, man?
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, just got choked up. Yeah. Yeah, it's just we should recognize the difference that we're seeing is God. Like over and above everything else, Gideon and 300 people had God on their side. So you go ahead. I don't want to die on screen.
Just kind of along the lines of what you were saying, just about how you have these armies, these people who were, I kind of like, they're doing wrong, they're committing sin, but this is not like the first time they've done this. This is a constant thing.
Yeah.
And it's like you start to feel secure, you start to get comfortable when there's no direct consequence for our actions and for sin. And it's like we do things we're not supposed to do. We say things we're not supposed to say, and like I said, sometimes there's no direct consequence. So it's like, oh, okay, it wasn't bad. Like, I know I shouldn't be doing it, but nothing really happened.
Right.
So you just kind of keep doing it, right? And then you start to feel that sense of security, of nothing's gonna happen, I'll never get caught, things like that. And then all of a sudden, like, God brings that consequence towards you, and sometimes it's too late. But yeah, just that feeling of secure, like you say, it does stick out. Yeah. The verse I was kind of looking at that just kind of caught my attention was just where he came back, and he says he took the elders of the town and taught them a lesson by punishing them with thorns and briars from the wilderness. And I was looking and just trying to see like what that really meant. And a couple of like the visuals I saw were like just these, like, if you ever seen a rose bush and like the thorns that come out on that, like those, but like kind of longer switches. And that's what they beat the elders with. And as I think earlier mentioned, like rip the flesh from their skin. That's what he used. It's like this thorny bush or switch to beat the elders. And this was because I kind of, as I'm looking at this whole kind of story and context, it's just they went against like God's plan. They went against what God had set up. And they did not assist or aid in God's plan when they could have. They chose to go against it. Because they say God has been leading Gideon into, what to do, into battle, how to go into battle. And, as the men are chasing, he goes into this town and he's just asking them to help, which they can help. Like I said, we said this earlier. This is not something that he's asked them to now join with us and let's go chase them. Like, it's just, can you assist my men who are doing the will of God? Can you assist, my people? Can you help my people who are doing my will? And I think we kind of talked about a little bit in discipleship, just about, giving to help the ministry, help the gospel spread and go forward.
Yeah.
And this is kind of that same context of just giving to help God's plan go forward, to just sharing what you have to help God's plan go forward. They were not asking to spend the night. They were just asking for food and water,
Just passing through.
Um, yeah. And so they chose not only to go against it, but to rebel and kind of mock it and to make fun of it. I saw one version that was talking about they said you're on like a fool's journey trying to catch them, like you're never gonna catch them, basically.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so he's okay. I, I'll be back. And
Hmm.
when he comes back, he keeps his promise of what he said he would do. Like the consequence that they basically put up on themselves, because it could have been avoided. They put this consequence on themselves by mocking God, mocking his plan, mocking mocking that God was using Gideon to fulfill this promise and this plan. And so I think for us, we have to be careful about what we're saying, or who we're turning down, or who we are not helping when God has a plan that is going forward. Not saying that he's gonna punish us this way, but there are consequences to decisions that we make. And
Yeah.
so we see here they were punished in this town by being beaten and beaten with the thorns and briars. And then the other town where he said he was going to tear down the tower, he did. And then it says he killed all the men in the town. And I'm not saying, it doesn't say whether all the men in the town were in on that decision to not help them, but now all the men in the town were affected by this decision to not help them. And so we can see sometimes too, you can just be, in an area or an environment where you are rejecting God's plan, or where you are not helping or not assisting in God's plan, and you can also suffer consequences from that. So that was the thing that stood out to me.
Yeah, as you were talking, what I was thinking, like these two towns were kind of like the Midianite army. Like they felt secure. Like,
Mm,
yeah, what are you gonna do, Gideon? Like you got 300 people. Like you're not going nowhere. You're not gonna, like,
yeah,
and you're chasing Midian towards their home base. Like, are you crazy? Like,
right,
you're not gonna do nothing. Like, we'll see you. You might not come back because they may kill you. And so
right,
they
right.
felt secure, just like the army. And again, it just maybe that was they weren't supposed to feel secure in that. you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's yeah, and again, like the one thing is like, where is God? Like
yeah.
I always uh, they have that saying, like sometimes you have to look up and see who you are, like which side you're on, like
Hmm.
there's certain times if you look up and you see certain people like agreeing with you, you need to really check, like, wait a minute, hold on. Like I may be on the wrong side, like
What did I say again?
yeah, so you know and again, even deeper than that, it's not even about the people, it's does God agree with what I'm doing? Does God agree with what I'm saying right now, or the way I'm acting right now, and is it in line with what he wants? Because if it isn't, like you said, I mean, you don't know what the consequence is going to look like.
Yeah.
um it's interesting, I was like, one of the commentaries, you have to account for the big context of the book of Judges is all about how everyone did what they thought was right, what was right
Hmm.
to them. So there's a possibility that it wasn't that like it was God trying to punish these two towns. It could have just been Gideon. Gideon just was upset, like y'all didn't help. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I should be able to beat y'all and take this power down. Like
Right.
it may not have even necessarily been like God wanted it to happen, but one thing
Hmm.
we know for sure, God allowed it.
Right. Right.
Whether it was right or wrong, God allowed it to happen, and they could have avoided possibly they could have avoided that outcome if they really just thought things through a little bit more. like you said, definitely not taking the step of mocking, just yeah,
Yeah.
you're never like that. That don't even sound right. Like, okay, all right. So,
Yeah.
on whatever level it occurred on, we do know that there were severe consequences that possibly could have been avoided. But,
All right.
again, it's about where is God? What is God doing? What is he allowing? You know, am I a part of it or am I opposing it?
Yeah.
There's a big difference. So,
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
else?
No, no, just I guess as I'm thinking about it, just thinking about how as a church we're trying to give, for Thanksgiving and trying to
Hmm.
help. And it's one of those things where, the church is asking, for donations so that they can do the work,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Like the church is not asking for people to slave in the kitchen for 6 hours and prepare a meal. It's just if you can help, in this area by providing these resources, like it would be appreciated so we can spread the will of God, the love of God. Um and it's it as I'm looking at this and thinking about, like, if somebody were to say, like, well, where's the people, like, do you have the people yet? Do you have the food yet? Like, just that kind of mocking, or like, no, I'll help once I see the people, or I'll help once this is done, like.
right.
And then, okay. I'll be back. No. But yeah,
Right,
yeah. Well, that
right.
was it. Just made me think of that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, I think we'll end here. If God says the same, next week we'll continue talking about um, the direct results for the two kings, verses 18 through what is that, 21,
21.
and maybe even continue to. Well, there's still a ways to get to the end of chapter 8. A lot is happening in this chapter, but try to just take it piece by piece. We'll deal definitely starting from chapter or verse 18. The next time we're doing this high five. So comments, you know, let us know what you think. We appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you.
Have a great Monday, everyone.